What's up, guys? I figured now we're on the cell phone, and remember, do as I say, not as I do. I've talked about this before, especially if we're talking about filming. Do not film with a light directly behind you. It's just not good. It doesn't work well for your autofocus. It's just not a good idea, and you probably shouldn't film with the camera so far away, but there's a reason for it, because this is my backlog. I took it all off the shelf, and I prepped all my backlog into sections so that I could actually, start figuring out when and how I'm going to read all of it, because there's a frickin' lot of it. So, this is my project right here. Let's do this project. Okay, so the first step to this project was pretty simple. Get all of those books, because remember I showed you that before, there were all those books up there. Get all of those books off of these shelves so finally we can address them. This is all part of having a huge collection. It's all part of doing this, is constantly managing your collection. And if you let something get out of hand, we run into the kind of problem that I talked about before. And if you don't remember what I'm talking about, I did a video where I said all these comics have to go. That's specifically what we're talking about. That's the problem we came across, is this was all just ridiculously filled up. And if you don't remember, I'll have a link to that video in the bottom, in the description and whatnot, and you can recheck that video out. In fact, go ahead and do that if you don't know what I'm talking about, because that's what this channel is talking about fandom with ReploidBill, specifically the collection and what it means to me. In comics, we talked about how backlog can be a real problem, and my backlog had become a real problem. Well, I'm addressing it finally, and this is something that we are going to do real quick right here. I'm going to create a type of divider system so that I can actually start addressing the fact that there's all these comics that I need to read. In case you're curious what I'm talking about, here's a nice little panning shot of all these frickin' books and the titles specifically that I plan to keep up with. Not to mention all the stuff that I don't plan to keep anymore, because those are going into the long box, which I already have one long box all ready to go. It's a long box that I'm no longer keeping because some of this stuff is just not going to be kept. And I also have the second long box, which is sitting up here, which is so that we can actually get rid of some of this stuff, because it's just, I'm not going to keep all of it, guys. I made a decision a while back when I did that video, all these comics gotta go. That was real. That's a real thing. That's actually adapting my collection and looking at how it grows and how it gets out of control out of time. And sometimes we have to go through this process to put it all back in order. Now, addressing this shelf, this is going to be a real simple process. Real simple process. I'm basically going to take these, just a couple of these bags and boards, and we're going to space so that the comics go in there, they stand up, and this will come out a little bit further, creating a dividing point. So when I'm ready to knock out an entire run of books, like say I just want to knock out the entire Batman run and be all the way caught up, so when I buy new Batman, I'm all caught up with what I'm doing here. I'll just walk up to the shelf and literally pull that entire section out. It's real simple. This is not a giant thing. It's not even necessarily a professional thing. It's just something to think about if you're coming across like a problem like this. This is just a very simple little itty-bitty trick that I'm going to use here, and hopefully it makes all of this look better and we can get it under control. And yes, later we will be doing videos to discuss things like this, because we do have all these old portable games and whatnot that are still sitting here, and at some point we're going to talk about all that stuff too, because yes, I'm going to be redoing the collection videos at some point, talking about all the stuff that I have, all the Game Boy games and so on and so forth, and we'll mention these when we do that. So let's start knocking this out, shall we? So all of this is a pretty slow grind, I will be honest with you, because putting this together, we want to do it right from the very first time we do it. We want to have it right the first time we do it, otherwise we're just going to do it again and again and again, and you know that that's the truth when we talk about this stuff. So look, I already did this. I already showed you the pan shot. I set all this stuff up. And my hope here, let's move the camera a little bit this way, get kind of the old game shelf back there and everything, and then that'll help to kind of alleviate some of this autofocus. Like I said, you shouldn't be doing these videos with a hard light behind you. It's not a good idea. It's really stupid. Don't do this. Don't film like me. I don't film right. I have the knowledge to film right, but I don't do it. So look, this is the best way I suggest, is just take this a little bit at a time. If you've gotten out of control, if you've run into a problem like this, get a big table. And this is my kitchen table in general. Lay out your books the best way you can, like I did right here, and kind of break them into sections, and then we're going to put them back together before we put them on the shelf like that. So this is just a Star Wars stack. I'm going to take this Star Wars stack, and then I'm going to sort it out so that it's all in order, or at least at the very least, because all the Star Wars that I have here, every single one of these, they're all one-shots. So they're pretty much in order. The only thing I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to go through, and I'm going to put them in order of how I want to read them. Then I'll put them on the shelf, and we'll just slowly move through this and put it all together so that we can actually start knocking it out and start reading it. And then maybe I can finally get some stuff done. So here's a fundamental reason why it's a good idea to keep ahead of this stuff and have one of these systems in place like I'm building right now before you ever get behind. See, when you get behind in comic books and you're not reading them as they come out and you fall into this problem, this is what creates the collector's issue in general. Is I know that I am subscribed to Justice League Dark, which means I should have the entire run. And chances are I would have had the entire run had I realized it. But I missed a couple books, and because I fell behind, I didn't realize that I was missing the books. Now, this is a real problem because some of these are going to be hard to hunt down. Like I have issue 1, and then I have 2, and then I have 3, and then I don't have 4. I have 5, and then 6, and then 7, and then 8, and then not 9. I go from 8 to 10. And this was probably a real quick, sudden little miss. Like it was probably a single week that went by that something happened that for whatever reason I didn't have the book. And like now I'm not coming across any blanks, so that we're up to 18, 19, 20 and 21 are missing. So I have 19, and then I skip straight to 22. And then that's 23 and 24 and 25 and 26, 27, 28, and 29. 29 being, as far as I am aware, the last run of this entire thing. As far as I know, that was it. The Justice League Dark, as far as I know, it's over, and I think it went 29 books. I could be wrong about that. Like I said, I fell behind. But, oh, and then I also have annual. But look, this is a big reason that one of these kind of systems, like I'm building right now, really needs to be in place. And even if you're behind, when you have a collection, you've got to keep your collection up to date. You've got to constantly be going in and looking at it and making sure that it's right and making sure that you've got everything that you think or that you know that you're supposed to have. Because if you fall behind in these type of things, you think that you know everything you're following. And maybe if you're following 3 books, that's okay. But you saw my pan across. You saw what I'm dealing with here, what I'm sorting. And that's not all of it. Because if you were also paying attention, there's an entire separate stack up there that's been set to the side that still also needs to be sorted and put down here to finish this project off as we do it. And now Justice League Dark is something that I was honestly enjoying. It's one of the things that's not going to be going in the long box as I finish reading it. So since this is something I'm going to keep, now we have a collector's problem. I have to hunt down very specific issues, and while that's part of the fun, you could say, it's also a real pain in the ass. Because comic book collecting, for all the exciting possibilities that it is a money dump and it's a money dump that never really pays off. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Look, this is part of what this channel is now, is talking about the collection and talking about my own personal fandom and whatnot. And as a comic book collector, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. This project leads us to really think about certain issues like this. I now have to keep a list of the books that I am missing. Get those books. And this can either be a simple project, like going to eBay or something like that. Maybe I get lucky and it doesn't cost that much and it's real simple and I buy the books and they ship them right to me. And then maybe I'm unlucky and book 5 is really something that's hard to hunt down. They're out of print. And here's the kicker. Comic books, we'd like to believe that they're worth a lot of money, but we've talked about this before. This issue 1, if it was kept in absolute great condition, and it was bagged and boarded, and for what it's worth, because these books never move, this book, even without being bagged and boarded, it is in wonderful condition. Okay, it really is. This is easily in great condition. The only issue, I would say, because of a small fray up here at the corner, which could have been avoided due to bags and boards, a little bit of a fray down here at this end. Those are the 2 major only real damage points of it, but because of those damage points, this probably falls to an 8 if it was to be graded or something like that. And well, that takes its value down. That's true. These little itty bitty nitpicky things cost you a lot of money when you're talking about comic books, and it's just inevitable that if you buy a comic, unless you get lucky, that comic is just not going to be worth the same that you paid for it. More than likely, most of these Justice League Dark books, I could probably sell the entire run, but most of these books are going to sell for, like, if I go somewhere, I could probably get away with selling them to a comic shop or a person for $1 a book. A comic shop might be able to ask for $5 a book or something like that, which is the problem. I'm looking to finish this now, so I'm missing like 4 books, and I'm going to go hunt those books, and it's probably going to cost me like $20-something to get those 4 books. Comic collecting. It's a money hole. It is a money hole. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you as we go through things like this. As we talk about collecting, collecting is not a monetary investment that helps you. It's a monetary investment that helps the people that are selling you your stuff. When you get to this point that you're doing this, the biggest thing about putting together a project like this, that building the shelf back there the way we're about to do it, just figuring out the things you're missing. Like I said, we just went over one part. There's another part right here in the Fantastic Four stuff. Now, this is not something I'm going to go out of my way to find, because as I finish the Fantastic Four books, more than likely they're going in the long box to be sold. Now, that's not a negative thing. It's just the way that it is. That's just that they just got to go. They're not something that I'm going to keep up with in that manner. So I'm not going to be replacing the ones that I'm missing, but I am missing some things. And one thing I wanted to finish, and this is actually a negative, is that I was getting this Invisible Woman, and I got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then something must have happened, and there must have been a ship date, and I must not have got the one book, the one Invisible Woman 5. It's the last book of the arc. I don't have it now. So I could start reading this, but I can't finish it. And that sucks. It sucks to have a storyline that, like, now I'm putting the shelf together so I can catch myself back up. And the truth of the matter is, I don't even want to start this now. I don't even want to start this run of books because I can't finish this run of books. Now, the Fantastic Four books right here, I'll start them, and if I'm missing a book in between and things like that, that's part of just comics. Sometimes it just works that way. And with an ongoing title that runs really long, that you may have 40-something issues, if you get to 15 and you miss 16, you go on, and you miss 16 and 17, you go on to 18, sooner or later you'll just pick it back up and you'll be fine, because especially if you come from like where I did in comic books, I just used to go to the shop and buy what was available, and so I caught the stories that I could catch. But then when you get into something like this kind of sucks. This is a one thing, it's a one run, it's the Invisible Woman, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, not 5. Now it puts me in a position where maybe I should just sell these and buy a graphic novel of them, because I can't get the whole story. And it makes me not want to start when it's a limited run like this, when it's only 5 books to begin with. That really sucks. And that's just one of the things you're going to come across when you run into a situation like this. And I should have put this together. I should have put this together and been paying attention to it from the beginning. And then each time I'd have brought new books home, I just would have went to the space that they were located in and I would have added them to the shelf. Hey, Lexi. And it's a nightmare. That's the biggest pain in the butt about going back, about trying to put something back together like this, is figuring out what you're missing, what you didn't realize when you were already 30 books behind. Oh, Lexi knocked the camera. When you were already 30 books behind, you were just going to pick up your books and you were just trying to read and catch yourself up, and you didn't realize, because look, 1 week bleeds into the next, especially if you're going and getting a set of books and getting a set of books and getting a set of books. And if you're like me, for a long time, I was picking up nearly 30 titles in one run. So I'd pick up 30 something books and then I'd look through them and be like, I think that's everything. I think that's right. And then I'd go home, or sometimes I'd get the same book twice and I'd be like, I don't know. I actually don't know. That's a nightmare. And then you get to a system like this and you start putting together what you should have had put together in the first place. And by the time you can get back and tell the guy that he forgot something, it's too damn late. I admit to being pleasantly surprised on the Superman run. The Superman run, so far, everything I've put together, I'm only missing issue 15. That's not really that bad. In fact, I could probably find that. Probably cost me $3, $4, $5. Could cost $8. Who knows? And see, that's the killer about falling behind in comic books, especially if you have a pull list. I have a pull list. Superman on that pull list. Superman, $3, $4. I'm sorry, $3.99. It would have cost me $4. $4. Now, I'm probably going to find that book and it's going to be $8 or $12 or some crap like that. Comic books are a very strange investment because the comic shop, like I said, the collectors building your collection are the ones getting money. Not you. Not you. These don't resell. They don't have a monetary value like that. And there's comic book collectors out there that are going to tell you they do. And I'm telling you, guys, just please, I'm telling you, you can argue with me till you die in breath. Unless you know exactly who you're selling to or you got some kind of major system worked out, these do not resell. Comic books are not an investment in anything else other than your fandom. They really are not unless you guarantee that you complete an entire set and then can sell the set, or you got somebody lined up, or you know some kind of system. The average person, me, you, average people that want to get into comic books, I have the entire run of Superman sitting right here minus book 15. The pull list that I had set up, $4.99, that's what it should have cost me. In fact, in my comic store, it would have cost even less because I get a discount. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't get that book. Who knows what the circumstance was behind it? Who knows why I fell behind? The fact of the matter is I fell behind because there's only so much time in the day. I decided to put my time into video games because I have a lot of hobbies. I like video games. I film all the time. I edit. I actually film and edit at work. I read comic books, I read manga, and so I've got all these different things. I love movies, I love shows, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. Star Trek is on the rise. Like, there's all this stuff that you put your time into, and sometimes you don't, sometimes it doesn't pay off the same way, and if you fall behind in something, a show, like especially if it's a streaming show, more than likely the show is still going to be there. You can just pick it up and keep watching when you decide to come back. You fall behind in comic books, it's not the same monster. By the time you realize you're missing an issue, it not only costs you that issue, it's going to cost you long-term profit, because now what should have cost me like $3.70, it's going to cost me like $8. I'm almost positive. Who knows? Maybe I find it for $1.30. Who knows? You don't know. I don't know. I haven't looked yet. But to get book 15, yeah. And then I got to ask myself, since I am getting rid of a lot of comics, do I keep my Superman comics? And you know, I might. Superman comics might be one of the comics that I absolutely do not get rid of, even if I don't read them again. And there is a legitimate reason to that. Superman has been an absolute staple of comic book history for years, and he is one of the things that I have stuck with pretty much my entire life. I may not always follow Superman, but I always have a massive appreciation and a huge place in my heart for Superman, because Superman was what kind of got me started. It's what brought me into comics. It's what I cared about the most. It was the character that I followed for an absolute ridiculous amount of time. And anytime Superman does something, I'll admit, I stand up and take notice. So, yeah. It's going on the shelf. It may very well stay in the collection permanent, but I am missing an issue. And while that helped some collector somewhere or some seller somewhere, it certainly didn't help a normal collector like myself. So as I cut through the next stack, I went into the Vampirella Red Sonja, which I was purposely waiting for it to finish before I actually read the whole thing, because I knew it was going to be a limited type of thing. It wasn't going to run forever. Sometimes I do this with books on purpose, and that's another reason that I tend to fall behind. And it's not always a bad idea. It's not a negative thing. Sometimes I purposely choose that for whatever reason, there happens to be a book and I know it's only going to run 10 issues or something like that, and I will purposely wait for the entire run to finish so I can read it like a graphic novel. Now, like I said, when you fall behind in comics and you haven't exactly, and you got a pull list like I do, there becomes a problem. So I have one, I'm missing two, and then I go all the way up and I'm missing 9. So I have 12 books here. I'm missing 2 and 9. That sucks. That legitimately sucks, because now the whole reason I waited was to read the whole thing uninterrupted, and I'm missing 2 books. And quite frankly, with this series, from the little bits that I've seen of it, I'm not even interested in going back and like filling in the gaps. So I guess I'm just going to read and understand that I'm missing 2 parts, and that kind of sucks. But like, who knows? Maybe if I read this and it becomes a really big thing and I decide that it's not going in this box to be sold, because look, my Vampirella standalones, they will not be going in this box, and my Red Sonja standalones will not be going in this box. This, it really depends on whether or not it's a good read, and now if it's a good read, I'm missing 2 books, and I gotta hunt down 2 books. I'm doing this video and I feel like I'm calling out my comic guy. Because like this project, it really is this kind of project. It leads you to discover all the kinds of books that you're missing. And like I said, when you have a pull list like mine, it's not his fault. I really feel like I'm calling out my comics guy here. But look, I started Vampirella, okay? And this is something that I've been meaning to get back into for years. You can hear my dogs tapping around because I'm downstairs. I'm not in the office. I'm downstairs in the actual living area. That's the reason you keep hearing the dogs. But, so like, guys, I started Vampirella, which is something I wanted to get back into for a very long time, because back when Wizard was a thing, I used to read Vampirella. And then I got out of Vampirella kind of, maybe like in the middle of high school. I kind of left it and stopped reading it. And then for whatever reason, just kind of like wanting to kind of escape the Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, you know, Captain America, just Justice League and Avengers. I wanted to kind of jump back into expanding my comic life again like I used to. So I said, man, let me get them Ninja Turtles. Let me get them Ninja Turtles back. Let me get Vampirella. So I put them things on my list and everything. And I kind of went back in. And, you know, it's been really cool. But yeah, like I fell behind, like I said. So I got 3 and 4 and 6. I'm missing 5. I got 7 and 8. 9, there's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Not that bad, but I missed a couple in the early part, and because I wasn't really jumping in and reading them yet, because when I tried to diversify my books, I was trying to catch up, and I was getting tired of reading some of the same shit, just Spider-Man, 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 Spider-Man. I said, let me get something else, man. Let me get something else that I can get in there. So I'm sure I missed one of these early books, like I said, and it's not really his fault. When you have like I've said this before, I had like a 45 book pull list. That comes with a certain level of difficulty for the guy at the shop to try to keep track of, especially if he's one friggin' guy. And then So then we go into Ninja Turtles, and I got 91, which maybe this is where I started getting the books, because then I don't really have another until 94. Then all of a sudden it's 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. Now it seems like it's going right, but I miss 101. I get 102, 103, not 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 111, 112, and then it's consistent, never seems to miss a book. Like, I feel like I'm calling my comic book guy out here. But this is something to keep in mind that's important when we talk about stuff like this. Guys, with this project that I'm doing, I'm bringing up some things about how comic book works, into how comic books work, and the industry is very different than other industries that you're interested in. When I buy a video game, I go in and I just buy the game. It's on the shelf and I just buy the game. It's pretty much expected that it's going to be there. When you're dealing with a comic book store, you've got to let them know in advance what you want. And you've got to work with them because it's a handshake operation. They're not a big store like a game store where you shake the hand and you say, yeah, I'm giving you $5, let me get that thing on pre-order, and then you get the pre-order. Comic books work at a handshake level. I say, hey man, Vampirella. He says, hey man, I'm going to get that for you. Then he starts getting Vampirella books. Now, if I fall behind and I don't realize that he's missed an issue, it's not really his fault that I didn't say anything because he's also taking a risk here. That's something to keep in mind when you deal with this, and the reason you should have a relationship with the guy that's running your comics is because you need to understand that it's a handshake situation, that he stands to lose as much as you stand to lose from buying them. At any time, I can just disappear. I got a 45 book pull list, all these books coming in all the time, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm done. So he all of a sudden, like and if I don't say anything to him and he just knows that sometimes I miss a week or two, I don't show up for an entire month. 45 books at a time, they all pile up. All of a sudden, he's got a stack like this. They're all back issues, and I get some weird stuff like Vampirella and Ninja Turtles. There's only 2 people in the shop that are getting Ninja Turtles, me and this one other guy that I talked into it. And then I got Vampirella, I'm the only guy in the shop. I got Red Sonja, I'm the only guy in the shop. So all of a sudden, I cut out on him. Now he has to find a way to sell those books. And chances are, if I was the only person reading them, nobody else is interested. Nobody else even knows about them. Nobody else cares. So now he's got to put this stuff on his shelf, and he may never get rid of it. It may literally sit there, and that's inventory and profit that he had to absorb. I just lost the sun all of a sudden. And so that's a real thing about comic book stores that you have to keep in mind when we talk about this kind of stuff. So while I'm talking about this, I want you to keep in mind that it's not really his fault that I'm missing issues. I should have been keeping up, and I should have had the rapport for him, because he'll give you the books and say, you got everything? That's everything, right? And I'm just like, I think so. And I just move on because I'm so far behind. It's a crash and burn situation to put all this back together now and realize that I'm missing stuff that I may have to go hunt down. The Vampirella stuff I'm going to go hunt down because those are books I'm keeping. The Ninja Turtle stuff is stuff I'm going to have to go hunt down because it's stuff I'm going to keep. And here's the killer. One of these books that I'm missing, the Ninja Turtles, it's a big fucking deal. It was a Metalhead issue, and it's going to cost serious money. And that sucks. And it's not really his fault that I missed out on one of the biggest issues. I should have been keeping up. So here's one for you that nobody ever stops to think about in terms of these books. So I'm sorting them, right? And I get to Green Lantern, and this one is on the comic book industry, okay? This one is on the comic book industry. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. Sounds like my guy messed up, right? Was giving me doubles. It's not what's happening. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all part of Green Lantern, Beware My Power, Season 2. I was also collecting Season 1, which is still in a box upstairs. I have all of these. So, because they barely changed the title, they just reset the numbering and gave it a Season 2 marking. When I was first sorting these, that screwed me up. I was like, what the shit is happening? Like, it's way similar. And if you weren't paying attention, Green Lantern. Aside from this middle area in the title here that says Season 2, yeah, that messed me up. I wasn't expecting that. But I got all of them. Doesn't seem to have missed a single Green Lantern issue. And here we are at about the very end of this project. Okay, now here's the biggest kicker. This is the one that is the biggest pain in the ass for doing something like I'm doing right over there. And that is these kinds of books. See, this is a legacy book. This is a book that's gone on and on and on and on forever with one title, Wonder Woman. The problem is that they started renumbering these to get people on board. Well, that means that at some point the numbers go from all of a sudden in the 50s and 60s, and then it comes all the way up here to 83, and then it jumps to 750. And this causes a problem for books that restart numbers, that have long legacy lines. You're going to come across this. You come across this in things like Superman. You come across with things like in Batman. I think Spider-Man did something like this for a while, where they just keep rebranding, and it's still the Amazing Spider-Man, but it changes the count just to get people on board. Like, this is issue 1 and yada yada. That is wonderful for people that want to get in, that feel like they're starting at the beginning. But guys, don't be stupid. First off, if you're wanting to get into comic books, don't be stupid enough to believe that all of a sudden you're jumping in at number 1, unless it is literally a brand new book that has never been on the shelves before. Because Wonder Woman, very blatantly, there's no way that you found an issue 69 and you just found it sitting there in the comic book shelf and it was $4. No way. No way. No way, no way. It didn't happen. It's not something that happens. And so for people like me that then run into a situation like this where the numbers all of a sudden change, this is not as bad for me as it is when I'm going through these long boxes. If I'm going through the long boxes, it can be excruciating with number changes and things like that, and where do you put things, and then the ideas, these books that do the run-ons, that like when I was sorting Power Rangers, do I put all the Shattered Grid together, or do I put Go-Go and Mighty Morphin in their own sections? What do? Well, that's a huge problem, especially when I go up here and I decide that I'm going to start reading things, because as I pull things off the shelf, I'm going to come across that where all of a sudden I'm reading Go-Go and I'm going to reach Shattered Grid, and what do? Do I stop and go to the shelf and pull off all the Shattered Grid? It's such a pain in the ass, these crossover book things like that. It's such a pain in the ass. But the project for getting that to look better and be prepared for me to finally start reading some books is done. Well, there it is. Huge difference. Big difference. And it's going to be a difference that's going to be legitimately helpful, because now each one of these sections is its own books. So if I come here and I pull out this section, I can read all of that and be all caught up with whatever that is. Now, on each one of these ends, I am going to label it for myself with, of course, a Sharpie or whatever, what each one of these series are. So as I get things that add to the series, I can easily add them. So I'll be able to go in and say, oh, I picked up more Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman is right here, and I can literally add to that. Perfect. This is the project. This is what I was doing. I just thought that I should go ahead and film comic sorting and kind of see where it took me, because I knew it would give me fandom topics and things to talk about, and I figured, why not? I need episodes. We always need episodes, right? We always need content, and this was a good way to get some of that content. I just figured it would give me stuff to talk about, and was right. It did. This is done. I'm gonna get out of here.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.